Welcome to Satsang. Beautiful to be together with you all. Starting as always with a question from our family joining us via the internet, joining us online, and then we open it up as always to any question that anyone here might have. Please, can you say something about loneliness? It is such a problem for so many people, including myself, especially in the West. Why? What can be done? What can you say to help ease their pain? This has been asked by Elana from Sweden. So, we have an epidemic, a pandemic really, of loneliness going on. It's not only the West, but it's definitely much more in the West than in the East. So I think there's a few reasons. 5 kilometers from the house they were born in. They lived there, they worked in that area, they went to school in that area, they got married to someone in that area, and, maybe other than a vacation, if they had the money to go somewhere far abroad for a vacation. Other than that, most people were born, lived, and died in a very small radius of an area. It hasn't been that long that this culture of migration has really been on. Now, if you say to somebody, where are you from? We go around and people say, well, I'm from Russia, but I live in Denmark. I'm from Los Angeles, but I live in Tokyo. I'm from Tokyo, but I live in New York. I'm from, wherever. Forget even just one city to another city, country to country. People are moving. But even if we just look city to city, even if you just look at within one country, people moving to different cities for first university, graduate school, maybe they stay back because they've got a good job there. Maybe they move because of a job. We meet a future loved one in college, in graduate school, these days online. They live in another city. We move to that other city to live and be near them. So that's one of the main reasons, and that's a reason about which I don't think there's much to be done. I think this is kind of the flow that our world is going in. We've got opportunities, beautiful opportunities that we absolutely should take for education, for career, for life satisfaction, that may be places that are far from where we were born, far from where our family is. And nothing wrong with that. I think it's one of the great benefits of what we would call modern society, is that ability to have movement. But it leads to a lot of people being kind of uprooted. There was a time, and I don't know if it's still true or not, but there was a time several years ago, I remember, when I was looking at statistics around certain cancers, and there was a really interesting piece because the San Francisco Bay Area had a very, very high rate of certain cancers. And the study looked at pretty much everything. Is it the water? No, they've got some of the best water in the country. Is it the air? No, they've got some of the best air in the country. Everything that you could look at that might be an external cause, air, water, is there something in the soil, is there some kind of, radioactive energy? None of that. From every perspective, it's a super, super, super healthy place to live. And what they realized is that it was a place to which many people were moving. That most of the people who lived there were not people who had been born and raised there, but people who had shifted there from other parts of the US or other parts of the world due to Silicon Valley, due to a whole bunch of other IT-related and other related opportunities. And so it was a place, a really microcosm, in which people were on their own. They were separated from family, community that they knew because they had been following a great career path. And the study was hypothesizing. I didn't follow up, so I couldn't tell you what the actual end-up results were, but their hypothesis was that the main reason for this increase was because of people actually being lonely and being isolated. And now we fast forward several years, because the study was a long time ago, and we now have absolute hard evidence that loneliness is bad for your immune system. During COVID, there was all kinds of research that came out about things like people's response to the vaccine, and people who were lonely had a much lower, much less robust response to the vaccine, meaning their body didn't actually create the antibodies it was supposed to. That people who were lonely were much more likely to end up hospitalized. They were much more likely to not have a good COVID outcome. And that wasn't just because they didn't have somebody to bring them vegetable soup, but because it impacts our mind, our whole system. So we know that it isn't good for us on a whole variety of levels. I think that first aspect of migration is probably the biggest cause for it. But then there's another huge cause that has happened over the last couple of decades, barely, 15, 20 years. And that's all of our devices and online time. We've had video games and computers longer than 15, 20 years, but they weren't really the bane of our existence the way they are now. I mean, when I was growing up, we had, Atari, that people would stay home and want to play video games. And, their parents would kick them in the rear end and send them outside to play. And the kids would moan that, no, I want to play on the video games. And the parents would kick them out. And that was the end of the story. You never actually saw large populations of youth spending all of their time inside playing Space Invaders and, all of the games that we used to play. Now, though, that's exactly what you see. It's exactly what you see. We are spending all of our time on our devices, whether it's our computers, our iPads, our phones, because we've started to turn to them for everything. News, entertainment, connection. You want to watch a movie? Just pull out your phone. There it is on Netflix. You want news? Pull it out. There it is. You want a little hit of dopamine? Right there. There it is. Oh, look, 100 people liked your post. Big, nice dopamine hit. Feel good. Go back to my life. So we've started to turn to these devices for everything, and it's done two things to us. Number one, on a purely practical level, when you spend all day long like this, you're not connecting. You walk into a restaurant in America. I haven't been into a restaurant in India, but in America, you walk into a restaurant and huge percentage of the tables, more than 50% of the tables, are filled with just one person, and that one person is sitting on their device. Or if there's more than one person, they're sitting together, but they're all on their devices. And there's the worst thing that we do to our kids. I can't tell you how many times I've seen parents just stick the kid in front of a phone or an iPad and turn on something, just to essentially drug the kid into a catatonic stupor so that they stop bothering you. This is not parenting. This is not useful in any way. It's not helpful in any way. It's not doing anything other than buying you a few minutes in the present moment. But we're all now using the devices for everything. You walk into an elevator. Nobody smiles at anybody anymore. You have no idea where you're going. I wrote an article several years ago, actually, about, not specifically about loneliness, but about the obsession with our cell phones. And a huge piece of the article was the number of people who die every year taking selfies. It's a huge number. I forget what the number is now, but it's a huge number. This is not just harming us emotionally, psychologically. There's now a huge number of people every year who literally die because they are too close to a mountain edge, or they carry the phone into the middle of a river, or they're just walking down the street not paying attention. So it's actually become dangerous. But it's done another thing to us, which is much more subtle and also much more insidious. Because if I'm staring at my phone, just watching the news or doing emails or whatever it may be, I'm still going to have a yearning for human connection. Even though I've got a device, there's still going to be a yearning for some kind of connection. But what social media has done is it has absolutely intoxicated, brainwashed us into believing that we actually have a connection. We've been brainwashed. Having 5,000 friends, the maximum number that you're even allowed on Facebook, is not an antidote to loneliness. They are not your friends. They may be very nice people. They may like everything you post. They may send you nice comments. And I'm not saying don't be on social media, but never ever think that that is the real thing. Your followers are not your community. We call them our community. It's certainly a nice way of referring to them. It's nicer than, my followers. But on a really deep, honest level, in terms of that which we need to be healthy human beings, an illusion. It's like eating a menu. It looks good. It sounds good. It's not going to fill your stomach. You can eat as many menus as you want, but your stomach is not going to be full. You can eat as many recipe books as you want. It's going to be full. You can eat as many, pictures of other people's meals as you want. It's not going to work. And this is what social media does, is it lulls us, it brainwashes us into this idea that these people who like me, who follow me, who comment on what I do, that they are my friends. They are not. Enjoy it for what it is, no problem. Keep putting things out there, it's great. Put positive things out there. Put inspirational things out there. Get the likes, get the follows, get the comments, no problem. But make sure you're connecting with real people. And that brings us to the solution, which is making friends is not rocket science. It doesn't require a specific skill set. All it requires is intention. My mom is this huge extrovert. And my dad and I used to laugh because if you put either of us on an airplane for an hour, 10 hours, 15 hours, long international flight, both of us could get off the plane and have no idea the name of the person who sat next to us or where they were from. Like, we could easily go 15 hours without saying so much as, excuse me, I have to get to the bathroom. My mom, on the other hand, would be in an Uber for 10 minutes and would know the guy's name, his children's names, what school they were in. My mom would have given him advice on, the other school they should go to or the restaurant they should eat at. She would look over to the table next to us when we were eating when I was growing up, and she'd turn to the people at the table next to us and say, "Oh, you don't want to order? I've had it. Let me help you." And she knew everyone's name. She was friends with everyone. Didn't matter where she went, didn't matter who it was, friends with everyone. Now, luckily for you all, you don't actually have to be on that end of the spectrum to inoculate yourself against loneliness or to treat it. But what it means is that it's not only something to solve by figuring out who you can have really deep, long relationships with, who you've known for, your whole life. But hey, what about the person who checks you out at the grocery store every day? Validates your parking ticket, or anybody. People at the dry cleaners, people standing in front of you or behind you in line at the grocery store. Doesn't matter. But if we really want to overcome this epidemic of loneliness, we need to turn every moment into an opportunity for connection. You're standing in line at the grocery store, get off your phone. Smile at the baby in the stroller behind you. Buy a loaf of bread for the person in front of you. Do something that just makes a simple connection. Look in people's eyes. Ask them how their day was. We need to get back in the habit of just connecting with people wherever we go. People used to actually know their neighbors' names. They used to know the name of the guy at the grocery store. They knew the name of the lady or the guy at the coffee shop. Today, if you say to most people, "What's your barista's name?" You get coffee there, 300 days a year. What's his name? What's her name? Most of us have no idea. Just take an extra 2 minutes. How you doing? Cold out today, no? Just a moment. Human to human. intention and focus and attention. What am I putting my attention on? Am I putting my attention on getting through these 2 emails in the elevator? Or am I putting my attention on the fact that I'm in a little box with 10 other human beings for the next 45 seconds and maybe I could smile at somebody? That's all it is, just a smile. Hey, I'm a human too. What's it like, inside your skin being a human today? Yeah, here we are. Here we are in these human bodies. And also, of course, on the deepest level is the spiritual connection. I mean, there's a reason that the sages and the saints and the rishis and the monks and even people today on many month-long silent meditation retreats don't come out needing to go on antidepressant medicine. Because that aloneness does not make them miserable. That aloneness does not give them an experience of being lonely. Because the 2 things are not the same. Saturday night and oh my God. But really, I'm not alone. It just looks like that because everybody I know is going somewhere. But I'm really not alone. I'm actually really connected on such a deeper level than just having gotten invited to go to the club or to go dancing or to go to that party. And that internal spiritual connection is what makes sages and saints and people emerging from long silent meditation retreats, overall experience of your connection to planet Earth and to the universe and to the divine. So give you a 3-part program. It would be number 1, most importantly, spiritual practice. Number 2, attention and intention as you move through the world. Just catch people's eyes, smile at them. Grab every opportunity you have. Make conversation. How's your day? Cute baby. How old is he? Just come back to planet Earth. Just occupy your body for a moment. Occupy your heart. And point 3 would be in alignment with both, of course, which is don't depend on your devices so much. Use them as tools. But stop thinking that they are the answer to everything. Remember that the creators of all of the apps who want us to turn to them for everything, it is their business. It is the same reason people sell alcohol. It's the same reason people sell cigarettes. It's the same reason people sell chocolate cake. Not because it's actually good for us, but because that's their business. If I'm a cigarette maker, I want you to buy cigarettes. If I'm an alcohol producer, I want you to buy alcohol. Not because it's good for you, but because every bottle you buy is another $1 in my pocket. Every minute you spend on that app, every new one you download, is another $1 or euro or rupee in somebody's pocket. But we get brainwashed into thinking, oh, this is for me. This is somehow going to make my life better. It's not. Real human connection. And by the way, not only humans. Another great antidote to the loneliness pandemic, animals. Get a pet. Go to the pound, go to an animal shelter. Pick an animal who speaks to you. A dog, a cat, a hamster, a bunny rabbit, whatever it is. Get one who speaks to you. Take care of one. Garden. Get your hands in the dirt. Plant things. Be part of bringing life to the planet. Sing to the flowers you've planted. Hug trees. Hugging trees is the best. Really, I mean, I've had some of my best hugs in the world with trees. Do not underestimate them. And it's a lot easier, I have found, to melt and merge straight into that like portal of divine energy through a tree than sometimes it is through a human being. So I'm not saying trees instead of humans, but just add trees to your community. And make that, a powerful intention for 2024. Is to increase your connection with yourself, with God, with nature, and with others. Because we do have an epidemic, and it is creating not just mental health issues, but physical health issues. Great. Other questions? Yeah.
I had quite an overwhelming spiritual experience in quite a young age.
Beautiful. That mic seems a little bit low. No, that's okay. He can raise it for you. Then everyone can hear.
At quite a young age, I was in a Buddhist monastery and I had an overwhelming spiritual experience. But looking back, I think I was very immature and I kind of started to reject everything that was worldly, and I wanted to get it again. And I'm quite an achievement-orientated person, and I meditated a lot and until I got a headache, and I couldn't continue anymore. But the years have gone by, and I really suffered a lot from trying very hard and getting disturbed by noises and stuff like that. So at one point I felt like I have to stop formal meditation. Even today it's difficult. As soon as I'm trying to do it, this achievement meditation and I think wrong kind of effort comes in.
Yeah.
So I feel right now my meditation is sitting at the Ganges, looking at the water and everything else and trying to relax. Is this enough? Could you comment on
Sure.
the
Beautiful.
effort in spiritual life? Thank you.
Beautiful. So it reminds me of the story of the master and the disciple goes to live in the ashram and says to the master, I really, really want to get enlightened. How long will it take me? And the master says, 10 years. And the man says, 10 years? My God, that's much too long. He says, well, what if I work twice as hard and I meditate twice as much? Then how long will it take me? And the master says, 20 years. Meditation and spiritual experience, sadly, is one area in which the harder you work, the farther away it goes. The more desire and craving you have for it, the more it slips through your hands. And this is where it's all about. It's much easier to let go of something you've never had and never know and may exist, may not exist. But if you've had it and you're not able to get back there, there's a yearning, a desiring that absolutely is painful in the head, as you say, and in the heart. And so we end up stressing and straining in meditation in such a way as though there is actually somewhere to go. It becomes like that squeezing of the body that you would have to do if you could imagine trying to run a marathon. Like what it would be like to squeeze that energy out of your body that was just ready to collapse. We end up trying to essentially squeeze that out of our meditation of like, give me more, there's more. And of course that just takes you out of the meditation. Takes you further and further from it. So I actually think that your path is very beautiful and perfect, which is just be on the banks of Ganga. You know, it's all about a quieting of the mind and the desire. And an awareness that where you are in this moment is perfect. There's the Buddhist tradition that we tend not to utilize so much in the Hindu Vedic tradition, but I actually think they're really useful, which are techniques of focusing really on the body. We tend to, focus on the chakras, focus on the prana, focus on sort of a transcendent experience. And that's beautiful and incredibly powerful. But in moments like this, when you're struggling, when there's an almost insatiable desiring that is happening in the mind that you can't free the mind of because it gets more and more painful, it's actually really beneficial to shift to the body. And there's a teaching that I just love, and I use it every once in a while whenever I feel like I really need it, which is, what's it like on the bottom of my feet right now? And I've never had a moment where there's ever been a problem on the bottoms of my feet. And no matter what else is going on in your mind, no matter what else is occupying that meditative experience and pulling you from it, if you just shift the awareness to all I'm going to do right now is focus on the bottom of my feet. And it sounds, for people who have had long, deep, intense, powerful meditative experiences, it sounds not just simple, but simplistic, like overly shallow and simplistic. But I tell you from experience, it actually can get really profound, because the moment that you're able to relax into the moment, that you realize, oh wait, bottoms of my feet are just great. No problem there at all. No wanting, no desiring, no yearning, no need to change anything. No expectations, no attachments, no stress. It actually frees up the rest of the mind. For more and more of that experience of grace. Now you can't, the trick is though, you can't do it with that intention if it's like, yeah, I'm just going to focus on the bottoms of my feet over here, but really what I'm doing is waiting for grace to descend. Then it doesn't work. But if you really just use it as a technique, I have found it to be incredibly helpful. It grounds you, it anchors you, it brings you into an experience of the perfection of the moment. And if you do that while you are looking at Ganga, maybe slowly you add in the chanting of a mantra, eventually that yearning will dissipate. That sense of there is something wrong with this moment will dissipate. Beautiful. Yeah. Other questions? Yes.
First of all, thank you so much for sharing your insights. And every day I'm living here, it's like I'm evolving as a person through all these meditation classes, how I send your satsang. They're just amazing. So my today's question is about the free will.
About the?
Free will, right? I was reading an article and was thinking about it that, as human beings, we have got the free will where we know we can function in a certain way as long as it is not impacting on hurting somebody. We have a free will there, right? And when I was analyzing that more and more about the ways of life, there are a lot of places where I don't see that. Everything when you do, even if it is not harming something, you have consequences.
Absolutely.
Take simple example where, you are just eating sweet or you are eating.
Whatever you're doing, absolutely every single thing you do has an impact.
Yeah, and that makes me think basically that when everything has consequences, when everything has an impact, there are so many people in this world who are not aware, right? Just take an example where, you are taking deep breathing, when you are running, when you are having sex, when you are dancing, right? You take more breaths, very shorter breaths, and that also impact your life. The deep your breath is, the longer you live or the healthy you remain. So my point is there are so many people who are not aware and they always think that they have a free will, and as long as they are not harming, they are good. But I feel that, there is some kind of test. You have to be on the path, and as long as you are going on the same path, you're good. Otherwise, you may have to face the consequences.
Okay. So there's a lot of different concepts and points that he's mentioned. I'll try to just weave them together in a cohesive manner. So first of all, free will. I think that there's a bit of a misunderstanding around what free will means. Free will does not mean what I do has no consequences. Free will means it's in my power to do it. I have the free will to do it. I could stand up, jump up and down. I have the free will. I can do it. I can do whatever I want. I can run out of here. I can run them. Total free will. Take this glass of water, pour it on my head. I have free will. But there's consequences to everything. Sometimes there's legal consequences. I have free will. Go out and murder somebody. I mean, really, free will does not mean that what you're doing is right. Free will doesn't mean that there's no karmic consequences. It doesn't mean it's dharmic. It doesn't mean it's okay. All it means is you actually have the ability to do it. For example, I do not have the ability to fly. I can jump off a building. I have free will to do that. But I will not fly. It's not in my capacity. I am not a bird. Free will gives us, quite simply, the freedom to choose our own actions and therefore to live with the repercussions of those actions. If your action is illegal and you get caught, you will be thrown in jail. If your action is harmful to your body will be harmed. If your action is harmful to somebody else, they may turn around and harm you back, or you may simply have the negative consequences of having harmed someone. But everything we do has consequences, and we have total free will within the spectrum of that which is in our capacity. I don't have the free will to climb from here up to the top of that jolly. It's not in my capacity. If I had the capacity, I could do it. Not my capacity. I'm not Spider-Man. Karmic repercussions are those which come to us based on what we do. As you say, you breathe really, 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 really fast. You take only short, shallow breaths. Well, it's okay when you're exercising. But in general, in life, you want to make sure to take kind of as long and as deep breaths as you can. Short breaths are great for bursts of exercise. Not so healthy for long life. But it doesn't mean you don't have free will. You have free will. I could hyperventilate myself until I died from it eventually. I've got the free will to do it. Now, this idea that somehow we can do whatever we want without the consequences, well, that's just an illusion. There's always consequences. There may be consequences that are immediately visible to you in this moment. They may not. They may be later karmic consequences. But everything we do has consequences, and everything we do, what you touched upon, is interconnected. Everything we do impacts the rest of the world. And you know, this for me is where science and spirituality overlap so beautifully, because quantum physics today is talking about things they call quantum entanglement. What does it mean? Everything's connected. What you do impacts the world. Well, our sages and saints told us that. It's in our scriptures, thousands and thousands of years ago. But today we've discovered it. Quantum science will talk to you about something they call the observer effect, which essentially means whether something is a wave or a particle. Is it energy or is it matter? Depends on who's looking. Now, that is not what Newtonian physics taught us when I was in school. But it's now what quantum science is discovering. Well, it's what our sages and rishis told us thousands of years ago. You create your own reality. Jaise drishti vaise shrishti. As is the sight, so is the creation. Yeah, whatever we do impacts the world. Through how we see it, through how we act, through what we do. And we still have free will. That's part of the package of this creation. That the use of that free will is what determines what the rest of our karmic journey will be. This is why we meditate. It's why we pray. It's why we attend satsang. It's why we do seva. It's why we go to gurus and mentors and wise, holy people. So that we can get the guidance, the clarity, the purity, the vision to actually live our lives, to use that free will in such a way that we're growing and we're blossoming and we ultimately are attaining liberation, and so that we're benefiting the rest of creation. So yeah, absolutely. Thanks for bringing all of those concepts in together. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. I will be leaving tomorrow in the afternoon for Ujjain and then Jaipur and then Calcutta. I will be back on the 19th, which is Tuesday. So we will have satsang again starting on Tuesday the 19th, but not in the interim days. We do, however, continue to have all of our beautiful programs of yoga, of meditation, of the sacred fire ceremony, the yagnas, all of the not staying in the ashram. It doesn't matter. Everything is open to everyone. And if you're not familiar yet with our daily schedule, just come into the reception area through here when we leave satsang. Or if your shoes are out there, you can come around and just have a look at all of the beautiful, beautiful options. Everything is at no charge and it's open to everyone. So feel free to dive into all of the beautiful offerings. And for those of you who will be here on Tuesday, I hope most of you, I look forward to seeing you all then. And so much love to you all.